Yeah, it's like we're not trying to imitate anything. I messed up this entire podcast.
What
Oh,
do you mean?
uh-oh.
I've been watching it. I've been watching it.
I didn't have the audio input capture on,
Oh,
so it's
No.
just been me
so
sitting here. Uh huh.
oh.
Sure.
It's no worries, man. It's been fun
That's
regardless, but
my
Ah.
boy.
ah. Okay, I need to write a checklist on what to do. That would have been. I'm glad I realized that now because that would have been very disappointed and very obnoxious tomorrow.
hmm
Going
yeah.
back to
So
listen to
better
the
learn about it
audio.
now, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So What do we do now?
I don't know. I muted it.
I've still got
I muted
I've
it.
got like other
We can make a short
stuff.
one. We can make a little 30-minute one or something if you want. But no, I
Tell
muted
you
it.
what,
I muted it because if I leave that specific channel on when I go to my live channel on Streamlabs, it doubles the audio. It doubles the game input and it doubles the
oh,
doubles
you,
everything
you
else.
just have
So
to remember to go and change
yeah,
it.
so I had it clicked
Yep.
off. Ah, man. Hey, camper. You're catching the tail end of me realizing I messed up.
That's what he do.
All right. All right, gents. Hey, I got to jump, but thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was very
I got to jump
interesting.
All
over
right,
to
man.
some daddy daycare. I learned a lot of things I screwed up as a child, and I also realized that Steven's 30 years late, but we'll talk about that later.
I'll work on the DeLorean, all right?
I'm
We
telling you.
need to go
Hey,
back.
if you find a DeLorean, the first thing I'm gonna go is tell my younger self, "Hey, quit screwing up." And then I might, purchase some things that'll be worth some money later. So you guys have a great one. Appreciate it.
You too,
All
Sky.
right, man. You
Yeah,
too.
you too, man. All right.
If
So
you like, I wrote down four different things, four different topics here that were just extra. That were um like the obviously if you all have questions, burning questions, too, of course. But
and what?
like the like I was thinking like one thought, like one comment or one thought I had was like the current market at eBay, right? Because I did not all, but I did much of my collecting through eBay because because of being in the service and traveling and not being grounded all the time. So eBay was my answer to much of my collecting, but I don't want to necessarily say that's the end all be all at this point because the current market is inflated,
Right.
or and everything's expensive now. I kind of struck while the iron was hot, and I knew I was at the time. I was like, you know what, this market is going to get worse. I better do it now because it's going to be where I won't be able to do it. Like it's going to be if I don't do it now, I won't be able to do it later because I know where the market's going. I could tell where it was going, and I was right. So it is tough right now to get into a high level of collecting in terms of like getting all sorts of stuff. But if you want to be selective and get certain things, sure. But
If you're
it's
just
tough.
going after one or two games, you're gonna spend a little bit of money on, but it'd be hard to get into
Right.
into actually collecting at this point, basically.
Yeah, high level, like the high quantity, high level, like what I've done. It's only because I was right at the tail end of before it just got bad, but the market just got it just everything's I've most things I've gotten have went up two or three times
Oh
what
wow.
they were. So
So
and
what you're
I know
telling
I'm
me when I
getting
was in all those pawn shops and they had a box full of Super Nintendo stuff for like $30, I should have bought a couple of
yes, that's getting stuff in the wild. Even if it means you end up with a lot of trash, you will find gems and you get it for cheap. Now I haven't done that as much as I wish I could have, but I have shopped many game stores. See, like say when I was in California, when I was in Yuba City, California, back when I was stationed at Beale, and Mike visited me there, so he knows what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about. We went to Fair Game. He went with me to the store. There was a place called Fair Game. I'm actually going to be calling them here soon because I want to get information on this disc mill that they have.
And he's back.
What's
All
up?
right. Well,
Your status
apparently,
changed?
daddy daycare. The babies are almost asleep. I walked out and I had to tiptoe my way back in the room because if I wake him up, I'm really dead. So I'm gonna give her like 30 minutes and then go check
Perfect.
again.
There we
So
go.
yeah,
So you'll like this, Luke. So I was talking about how when I was stationed at Beale in Yuba City, and the next town over, Roseville, it's kind of where the swankier stuff was. There was a store called Fair Game. It was my favorite. It was my favorite retro video game store. It's a very very good retro video game store. And Mike came to visit me while I was there, and we went there together, so he knows. Here was the thing about that store. I mean, it was a good store, good people, ran well. They had every console you could think of around, all that stuff, good titles, lots of people from the area. That part of California, there's all sorts of people that come through, so you got lots of titles. But here was the kicker, though. This is what made them unique. They had like three of them, but they had $20,000 disc mills.
Oh.
Okay, these were industrial level, up to your chest height disc cleaning machines that took any disc and made it look like new, even when it looked like trash.
Wow.
Okay, I didn't know that technology existed at that level. I didn't know you could take a game that looked that bad and make them look that good. Like I had games I thought were like, oh, this is never gonna look, this will be playable, but it'll never look any good, and it made it look like new. Because it literally shaves off like micrometers of layers, if that's even small enough. Like like absolute micro layers. It just shaves just a little bit. It gives it a new surface. Now there's a limit. You can't do it you can only do it so many times before it starts cutting into data.
Right.
But you can do it once. You could do it like two, 3 times max, and it'll be fine. And it'll fix it, smooth it out. So I'm literally going to be calling because one of these days I'm going to buy my own, not the $20,000 one, but there are different models.
Oh, he's gonna get $20,000 one. Just watch.
Just watch.
Well, and they got their
do I want
money's
a
worth.
car? Do I want a car? Do I want a disc cleaning machine?
Do I need a new? Do I want a new truck? Disc cleaning
Hey,
machine.
listen. Let me just explain something to you. If I bought a $20,000 disc cleaning machine, my wife would ask me, "Hey, does it have a place for you to sleep?"
Right.
That would be her first question. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens when the topic of me buying a new toolbox comes up, because that's what I do for a living. It's like, well, if you buy one from Snap-on, make sure it comes with the bed. Got it. Got it. Noted.
Yeah, that's why I don't buy Snap-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
So that was unique. I didn't even know those existed. They do. So what you want to do if you do have discs, because I'm actually going to be here in the future, not right now, but eventually I'm going to work on my music CD collection, restoring them, buffing them, replacing their cases, the whole 9 yards, ripping them digitally. I'm going to completely restore my entire music library, more than I have already. So that's going to be a future project. Because that's what I've done.
Nice.
I go through all my cases. I restore cases. I replace cases. I buff discs. If I don't have a booklet that it originally had, I find one to replace it. I've done that as much as I possibly can throughout the years with particularly games, but movies too. I replaced my entire Blu-ray collection of like, it was something like 200 to 300 Blu-ray cases. I actually replaced them because a lot of them were. Have y'all ever seen with Blu-ray cases they have the recycle symbol in them and they're hollow? They're hollowed out. There's not even anything there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I hate those with a burning freaking passion. I see red when I see them. They're garbage. So I replaced those with third-party cases, Blu-ray cases I bought that are solid. I replaced all of them.
I got an inside story about them being garbage.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I could snap them with one hand. In my one hand, I can just go get, and this whole thing breaks. Easy. They're trash. They're awful. Worst cases ever made. And
Inside thing about plastic in general, only 12% of all plastic is actually recyclable.
Right.
So in reality, yes, the other 88% it's all trash. It can't be recycled. But yet they tell us to put it in the recycling bin.
Right.
And even when we do, well, all the garbage companies, all they do is they burn it.
Interesting.
Now, here's something that you all give or take, because I've actually helped. This is actually something I helped Mike with. It was because he wanted to play. He's a good example of this actually. He had one game that he wanted to have, and the only way he could play it is having the original cartridge, and he wanted a way to play it. He's like, all right, I have the game. How do I play it? So the key to that, and it's like some collectors like, it's not fit. I'm like, okay, be quiet, go home. There's some, and I say, I mean, I don't know how many are actually that way, but I know they're out there.
I know where he's going with this.
What you want to do is say, all right, I'll tell Mike's version here. So there is a Famicom. By the way, when you hear Famicom, that's the Japanese version of Nintendo. It's called the Famicom and Super Famicom. That's what and they look different too. They look different. They had a different name, completely different in Japan. And the cartridges look different and everything. Mm-hmm. So there is a Japanese game called Area 88.
Area 88. Yep.
That he played at a friend's house who had a Famicom.
Mm-hmm.
That and he was able to play it, and of course the game's in Japanese, but yeah, they were Japanese. They had a Famicom, and so he had special access to an imported game that you normally couldn't play it on North American Super Nintendo.
It was a dope game, and
it's a cool game. So he was like, all right. Because we were talking about classic games, he's like, "What's the game you like?" And he was like, and so I tracked down for I think a birthday.
Yes.
I tracked down a copy for him. I got myself one too because I thought he introduced me to it. I never played it. I thought it was cool, so I got that. I got him one. I got myself one. And then he's like, "Okay, cool. I have the game. I mean, I would like to."
You
play
heard it all here, folks.
Like,
I introduced the game to him.
He did. He did. That's actually my first Famicom game. I'd never had you know what? That'd be really cool to have a Famicom game with its box too, and they were different. So what you do is there are clone consoles, HDMI ready clone consoles. There's a bunch of them. Okay, there's really, I mean, there's some that are like knockoff crap ones out there, but there's some really good ones like Retron.
Retron HD.
Yeah, see, he has the Retron Trio, I believe. It's the last one they put out. It's
3-in-1 retro game console, so I guess.
Yeah, and it's
I don't see Trio anywhere on there.
It's got Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis. I believe you can play any of those cartridges. It's
NES,
HDMI.
Super NES, and Super Famicom, and Genesis, and Mega Drive, whatever that is.
And that was the Mega Drive was the original Sega console.
Got it.
Sega console. So if I'm correct, I never had one. I still don't have one. So I'm not.
I have no idea.
But yeah, so that console, that all-in-one console like that actually he has it. I don't have that one. I want that one. I have one just like it. I have a version of it, but that one's actually a nice, simplistic plug right in, HDMI, boom. You put in a cartridge, it fires up on your TV in HD, ready to go.
That's awesome.
Very, very nice. So there are clone consoles that make it to where, man, I have the game, or oh hey, I went to my mom's house and I went in the attic and found a cartridge, but the system's broke. I don't have it. You can get a clone console and you can play it in HDMI, and they play perfectly.
That's dope.
So there's plenty of those options out there. I've made it a point to get each relevant one. They work great. And there's two companies. Retron is a great company that does it, and there's another company off the top of my head I just forgot, but they do it too. Really, really, really cool. And those are actually the ways I play retro games. I don't use native hardware to play old games. I use this new stuff. You know, that's how I play them. If I decide to break them out and play them, I use that stuff to play them on my current TVs.
That'd be kind of a cool way to stream some of this stuff too, instead of having to find a copy of it on Xbox or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's all HDMI. And now that's another thing. There's another accessory that is very, very nice in terms of making games look better on a modern TV, especially 4K TV. Just now, the name is just not leaving me, and I'm trying to hold on. Basically, what it does is it's an adapter. It's like a graphics card adapter that you put on the HDMI, and it goes through it into your TV, and it enhances the colors. It takes images as low as 480i and up converts it to higher resolutions up to 4K,
Nice.
and it smooths out textures and pixels, so it smooths it out, and it can take things that are, if it's like a widescreen, it's not the way, because 4:3 is the appropriate aspect ratio of most older games.
Right.
You can there's a 4:3 mode you can turn on this thing if you're having issues with that.
Yeah, on this Retron HD thing, it says it's the 4:3 and the 16 by something or other.
Right.
16 by 9.
I always recommend. Yeah,
Yeah.
16 by 9. I always recommend putting stuff that's natively in 4:3 back in 4:3, because otherwise you're stretching the pixels.
Yeah,
And it makes it look
all
worse. It makes everything look flat. It makes everything look blurry. I always urge people, put it in 4:3 put it whatever it's natively in, no matter what it is, because otherwise you're hurting and altering the image. You're making characters look like they're short and fat when they're not, and stuff like that.
Mario's already short
Stretching
and
it.
fat. We don't need to make him shorter and fatter.
Exactly.
Which reminds me that the other thing I wanted to get that we couldn't get was the modded 64.
Yeah, that's a pretty special case. So what he's talking about, there's a
Super
there's
cool,
a
that's what it was.
HDMI enabled motherboard that people can take and put into a 64 and make an actual native N64 now natively HDMI capable with features. But you have to solder it and implement it into the actual motherboard. You have to really know what you're doing, and you can pay people to do it if they have the equipment, if they have that equipment to do it with. But there was a website that was selling them. They always sold out. It's pretty exclusive stuff. I've never gotten a hold of it. It's expensive. That's actually the only console they have not done a proper clone console for, is the N64. Right now, the only way to play N64
I think that's
games,
the reason I wanted it.
right, it was, yeah, because my solution is I have native N64s, and I have an HDMI adapter that I can pop in it that works really well. Not quite as well as that can, but it actually is a great alternative. It's just a plug and play. It turns the analog into HDMI on the console just by plugging it in, and it works really well. That's my solution, right, for now. Hyperkin, that was the other company. Retron and Hyperkin. Those are the two go-to companies for clone consoles and accessories. And pound cables. As far as, they don't make consoles, but they make cables. HDMI conversion cables. Pound, like weight, pound cables. Highly recommend pound cables off Amazon for, like, if you're like, oh man, I want to make my OG Xbox HDMI, I want to make my GameCube HDMI, I want to make my Sega Saturn HDMI, I want to make my Dreamcast HDMI, my PS2 HDMI. The pound cables got you covered.
Takes the red, what was it, red, yellow, and white, and makes it an HDMI cable basically. That's dope.
Yep. Do you remember the what component was after analog?
The 5 cables.
Yep. See,
Yeah,
the Xbox, it converts the component into HDMI. See, the OG Xbox has the best, and PlayStation 2 had it the PlayStation 2 technically had component as well. Very few games utilized it properly, and PS2 had a very poor resolution compared to the other consoles, but they did exist. Like, technically, you could play Gran Turismo 4 and 480i.
Nice.
I'm sorry, 1080i. 1080i.
Oh, 1080i. I remember the first flat screen that I witnessed playing Xbox 360 on, and that was the OG 360, so it was a component, not an HDMI. That thing was cool.
Yeah, and at the
all
time,
of a sudden,
component was great.
Yeah, all of a sudden everything was like super crystal clear and defined. It's
Oh man, I know.
What? This game looks so good.
I know, it was crazy going from because I had to buy the standard analog for our CRT TV, and I had that for a while, and then I got a Philips LCD, a 42-inch Philips LCD, and that was my first HD TV. It was a 1080p Philips, and I got component like you did. I got component for the 360. I had HDMI for PS3, and I was just like, oh my god.
It looks so good. I could cry.
Oh man, it was sick, man. For us at the time, like You know what? Like, remember, me and my brother talked about this earlier. Remember when broadcasting switched from analog to HD?
Yeah.
Watching
Yeah.
football in HD on TV for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh
It
yeah.
was just like, whoa, 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 whoa! This is completely different.
We had to get
People
one of
I knew
those
had
little
a
boxes.
completely opposite effect because they're like, what? I can't watch broadcast TV on my TV no more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we bought one of those little converters.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the converters. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
people I knew were too cheap for that, so
There was, I could be mistaken, but I thought there was an actual program they would mail one to you, free.
I'm pretty sure there was, but you know.
Yeah. When they were doing that switch, I think that's how Mom and Dad got theirs. It showed up in the mail.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. I was trying to remember what the name of this thing was. So there's an adapter, HDMI adapter. One is talking about enhances graphics. It's called the M, like the letter M. M for Mary. M Classic. M Classic HDMI adapter. You look it up on Amazon. It's like $80 right now. It's not cheap, but it really seriously works. Even, you know what? Even on your, let's say,
Okay, Todd Howard.
yeah. Yeah. Even, you know what? Even for the Nintendo Switch, being a 1080p only console, when you put it in the dock, it actually converts 1080p to upwards of 4K. And the lower the resolution something is, the more work it does.
Right.
And what I do, here's my secret. I take an HDMI selector box. You know, like you can put 4 HDMIs in one box. You select which one you're on the same source.
Mm-hmm.
So I take a selector box. I put the M Classic on the out of that. I have, let's say I have, you know, the pound cables I was talking about that go to like Xbox. In this case, I have a Wii, OG Xbox, PlayStation 3. You know, I could put a Super Nintendo on. I mean, I have a Super Nintendo there's Super Nintendo HDMI cable, like any of those you could think of. There's these conversion cables for HDMI. So I take any of these old consoles, I put HDMI into the selector, and it goes into the M Classic, into the TV. So that M Classic is enhancing any of these old consoles I'm putting through into HDMI, and makes them look as good as they can possibly look on a new TV.
That's
because
awesome.
they weren't designed for these TVs originally.
No.
So they're going to look worse than they did on the CRT.
That's the truth.
But it helps a lot, though. It helps a lot. Like, it makes them look decent. Like, it's like, oh, this actually looks more like I remember now. Like, or, oh, it's pretty, it looks fine. You know, blown up on the TV. It actually looks decent. You know, my other solution is I have an actual CRT in my room. And I have two backups.
You would.
I have CRTs.
Of course he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the components in those are worth money, aren't they? And compressors and whatever else.
The precious metals.
Yeah, maybe it's just that.
There's like 25 pounds of copper in them. I know that.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure if you took them to yard, broke them down, whatever. But yeah,
Not worth
I'm
it.
sure.
They
Yeah,
still work.
yeah. If it doesn't work anymore, sure, absolutely. If it's like dead, you know, absolutely. So that was actually one of the topics I wasn't sure if I was going to get to was, man, I have a game, I have a cartridge, I want to play it, I have no way to play it, I have no idea how to play it because I have no access to old, like I don't have a Super Nintendo, I can't find one of those, or that's all analog, that's not HDMI.
Right.
Or even if you had the system, I don't have the means to connect system to said new modern TV.
Right, and I can connect. I've gotten to the point because of all these cables I've gotten a hold of. I can take virtually every single retro console I have. I can put through HDMI, every one of them. There's HDMI converters, and I've found all the best ones I can find, including the N64. That's my solution for the N64 since there's no clone console.
Mm-hmm.
As of yet, even though Hypercan was working on one, but that was back in like 2020. That was like back in 2020 last time we heard about what they were doing with it. So
Right before the clash, right before the
the clash,
the whatever it was,
the stuff and things.
the stuff and things that we're not going to talk about.
Yeah. So the right before Stuff and Things, it was there was a prototype at a convention, and they were talking about it, and then there have been radio silence since. Hopefully Hyperkin is still got it on the back burner, and they're still working on it. Because I would love to have an N64 clone console.
That'd be dope.
But for now, though, I do have a solution.
See, I'd take the clone or the modded.
Yeah. The modded is a solution has been a solution for those willing to spend the money. And there's literally, but see, another option though, it's not the cheapest in the world. It's an adapter. It's not it's not as cheap as pound cable and the other guys. It's a little special. The N64 is unique in this regard. It's an actual adapter, and it has a graphics filter on it, so it is nice. But it was like $120 accessory though, so it's not cheap. But you stick it in the back, and then that puts the HDMI out, but HDMI through that, and then I put the M Classic through that. So I got two filters going on it, and it helps it look decent on the TV. Literally two filters at once, and that's what that makes it actually look pretty good on my like 4K TV.
Oh, let's see. We want to go back and reflect on pictures real quick and
Yeah, we
call
we
it.
can real quick. Let's see. So, let me get okay. So, on the first picture, the main point here was variance. If you're collecting, if you're not sure, you're like, hey, I have this like with Doom here. I heard that Doom's worth $200-300. I've got one right here. Well, which version is it? Oh, it's this greatest hits with green on it. Yeah, it's like $30. Maybe 50, maybe 40, but I give or take around 30. Whereas if you have the black label, you're sitting on some change. You're sitting on $200-300, give or take. And now, obviously, it's a matter of who's willing to buy, so it's not an easy sell. But it has sold for that though, so it is worth that.
Yeah. And the big takeaway there is don't use your T-shirt on the freaking disc.
Yeah, and that's the next thing. You know, you got Sega Saturn, regular jewel case versus the long jewel case, as we call them, the long jewel case, which those are replaceable. There have actually been people that have been making these new from scratch, these long jewel cases I actually bought them in bulk to replace Sega Saturn cases because otherwise they didn't exist anymore. But people have actually been making them.
Nice.
And they're pretty really close to being off there. They're very nice. They've been great. And obviously nobody cares about, oh, it's not the authentic original, jewel case. Who cares? It's a jewel case.
Well, I'm curious because if anybody knows anything about plastics, they say plastics cheap, which is true.
Right.
But the molds for plastics are not. That's like tens of thousands to up to hundreds of thousands for molds for plastics.
Right.
So if someone's making them now, they made
a lot of them.
They either made brand new ones and spent a shoot ton of money, or B, got a hold of the originals.
Right.
Well, there is a story like that. There's a company called like TTX or TX. No, TTX. There's a company called TTX. They make reproduction controllers, and one particular is a reproduction Super Nintendo controller. And I was buying it, and the guy in the store was talking to me. He was telling me, he's like, hey, you want to know something? He's like, hey, you know what the special thing about TTX? He said those are really good repros, and the reason they're really good is because that company actually took over the old factories that they used to make Super Nintendo controllers in originally, and they took them over and restarted them, and so this is actually as close to the original as you can get. That's not technically branded by Nintendo, but it's the same places they used to make them.
That's awesome.
That's why there's and you know what? When you use these, they're really nice. I'm like, damn, this is like almost exactly like it was originally. Almost, not 100%. I'd say like 90%, 85-90% close to an authentic Super Nintendo controller, and they're $8 a pop.
Nice.
So kind of like that's according to what he told me, and I believe him. He sounded credible, and the quality of the controller kind of speaks to that. So I think that's real. I believe that.
So you got The proper way to hold a disc.
Yes, which is very important. The proper way to hold, as long as you're holding the sides and not touching the shiny surface. That's the black, that's the black PlayStation 1 surface, which we're super sensitive.
And the
Putting your
proper.
index finger in the middle and carrying it, which will really ensure you don't drop it. That's how I prefer to carry them, is putting your index finger in. And the key thing here is, like Luke mentioned, if you're going to wipe off dust or fingerprints from any disc, even Blu-rays, and I forgot to mention Blu-rays, but especially DVDs or prior, anything DVD or before, you want to wipe center straight out, center straight out, center straight out, and that is because you're going against the grain, not with the grain. The grain is circular, so you're going straight out, perpendicular to the grain. Okay, as you're wiping it, it won't harm the data doing that. It's designed that way. If you go circular, you're going in the grain, into the data, and you're screwing it up. Good job.
That's it.
Okay.
The proper way to clean the old cartridges.
And now Blu-rays,
rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip works as well.
yes, yeah, as high alcohol content of rubbing alcohol as you can find at like Walmart or something. If you want to, actually, you know what I did? I actually bought, what's it called? I actually bought, I guess isopropyl alcohol is rubbing alcohol, but I bought like a industrial level alcohol off Amazon.
Oh, okay.
For that, specifically for that. Which is like they use in like aerospace shops. So it's ultra concentrated. But yes, Q-tips that. But otherwise, the product I have in the
Did someone
picture.
say shots?
Shops.
Somebody
Aerospace
say shots?
Let's take a shot. Don't do it. God.
We've been
don't
talking
do
about
it.
video games this entire time. It's alcohol? I've got some of that.
But by the way, Blu-ray discs, because people don't need to know this, I've seen a video on how they're made. Like with Blu-rays, each and every Blu-ray disc has a layer of gel applied to them as they're manufactured. That's why they feel. That's why when you like take a fiber cloth, which by the way, like I said, a microfiber towel you want to use for a very soft microfiber towel for cleaning center out, not your shirt. but now have I used shirt? I fill a shirt. I know it's very soft. I need to do a quick wipe, and I do center out. But did it hurt it? No. But preferably you want to use a microfiber. But Blu-rays it glides and it's slick and they don't scratch as easily because it literally has a layer of gel that they pour onto it that as it's being made to make it more durable, which is very nice. I love Blu-rays for that. They really made that much better. But people still screw them up, but they are more durable, and the surface is so much smoother. So if there's a fingerprint, it's very slick feeling. But you still want to go center out. And that One-Up product, that's a good product to use for cleaning cartridges. That makes it even more, even better than a Q-tip. But if you don't have it, Q-tips and alcohol are just fine.
See, and then
Don't
I
blow
think
them.
the rest of these were just the protective cases that you can get if you're collecting, so the cases don't get all scratched up.
Yeah, videogameboxprotectors.com.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very good website. They have every shape and size of protecting cases you can think of.
And the
Video
replacement
game box
foam
protectors.
that you can purchase or replace if the yours is
eBay.
garbage.
You
eBay.
search them on eBay, you'll find them. People that make them and cut them to the right size, and they're great. Because every Sega Saturn and some PlayStation 1 cases, or all the long boxes, they were designed. They kind of ended up. They needed these foam inserts because there's air in between the disc and fall out and stuff. So
Especially in like
they
shipping and
originally
stuff
came
like
with
that.
foam. Right. So they originally came with foam cuts, but a lot of them were either lost or thrown away or forgotten about. I replaced every single one of mine.
Let's see, then we've got the
recommend that.
Super Nintendo stuff. A nice completed, pieced together version of Super Star Wars. Awesome game. Apparently playable on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 right now. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yep. Downloadable for like something like $10 or $14.99 or $9.99 on the PlayStation Network. It's a digital title.
The warning, the cautionary tale of Snow Brothers This is 100%
Yes.
a fake, playable.
Yep, it is a complete. It is a repro. The whole thing, the
Reproduction.
booklet, the game, it is all a reproduction of a $300+ game.
So a really good
that-
way to go if you want to just play it, not collectible.
Yeah, if
though.
you want to just have it, play it, have it as like a neat knick-knack. Now, me, I am always transparent about the games I have that are not authentic. I have a handful of them. In some cases, I did it. Some cases, I did it because otherwise they don't exist. Like there's or at least in North America, like there's a translated version of Clock Tower 1 on Super Nintendo that never made it to North America. I have the repro because it's a translated version that I'm able to play. So, things like that. But in this case, it's a game from my childhood that there's no way I'm dropping $300 to $500 for it. So
Right.
I spent like $50-$60 and got a complete repro. But I'm always transparent about, yes, this is not authentic. And the way you can tell, and the reason for I'm showing this at all is the fact that these do exist, and you want to be cautious if you're buying an expensive game. You want to look at, the best way is to take it apart and look at the motherboard inside, because they cannot reproduce them like where they look exactly like originals. There's always tells in how it looks. But not only that, but the front sticker, that Nintendo seal of approval. My shortcut, you look at the shimmer of that Nintendo seal of approval. If it doesn't have a 3D shimmer look to it, and it looks like dull and kind of orange, and just doesn't look right, that's usually a repro. That's your easiest, quickest tell. Is that look at the Nintendo seal of approval symbol on the front sticker.
And then let's see, what you can find sometimes is the authentic Nintendo cases too. So
Yeah, they're these the shell cases that have Nintendo symbols on. They're, as far as I know, they're authentic Nintendo. These are old, and they're
they look good.
they're nice alternatives if you can't get the original boxes. As we discussed earlier, original boxes are worth 9 times out of 10. A game's box is worth more than the cartridge itself.
Which is
Because we
hilarious.
ripped them up and threw them all away. Yes, it's ironic. It's like not even the game itself is worth more than the box in almost every case.
We need to go back.
I know we need to get that DeLorean.
Yep. Well, I guess this is going to be a shorter podcast than last week, and that's my bad, boys. I apologize for that.
Sorry if I was talking really fast. I actually told myself to not do it, but I ended up doing it anyway. I need to slow down.
It's fine.
But my brain is going. It goes a million miles an hour.
Get the words out. Get the words out so the sentences stay coherent.
Dude, that's the struggle. But it's what's that from?
I don't know.
Liar.
Mm.
when he couldn't hold it in. No, he was trying to hold it in, but he was trying not to say the truth, and he could not contain it, and he just kept all oozing out. He's like, yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna add another marker here. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week.
It's like fun.